The first Health and Communities Committee meeting. You're okay, for 2026. And can I take the opportunity to welcome our new committee member, Liz McGowan. Liz, you're very, very welcome, and we're glad to have you on board, and we're looking forward to working with you throughout the Health and Community Committees this year. So Happy New Year, everybody. And can we also take this opportunity to welcome another new committee member, Alderman Chelsea Cook. So we've all the newness today, and we're hoping for great things from the both of you. So welcome to you both. We're glad to have you on board, and I'll now pass you to Karen to do the members' attendance.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So members, we have to recommence the Health and Community meeting, so I'll just do the summons again. So you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Health and Community Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, Derry, on Thursday the 15th of January 2026 at 4 p.m. So attendance, Alderman Cook, Alderman McMorris, Alderman Montgomery, Councillor Lillian Barr. All right, okay. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Online, Carol.
Councillor Paul Boggs. Councillor Clark.
Sure.
Councillor Devine.
Sure.
Councillor Duffy.
Sure.
Councillor Hutton.
And Shaw.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGowan.
Shaw.
Councillor O'Farrell.
Sure.
And Councillor Tierney.
Here.
Thank you, members.
And I'll just read the broadcasting statement, members. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. So members, declarations of members' interest, we can do that now or as the meeting progresses. And the first agenda item today, we're going to be receiving a deputation from Cora McConnell, who is the North West Community Fundraising Officer for Cancer Fund for Children. So Cora, you're very, very welcome in the chamber here today, and whenever you're ready, you can start your deputation. We look forward to hearing it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee, and thank you all for the opportunity to allow me here to speak to you all today on what is a fantastic charity, Cancer Fund for Children. Next slide, please. So our vision, no child should face cancer alone, and this is at the heart of everything that we do. At Cancer Fund for Children, we support children and young people between the ages of 0 and 24 and their families. When a child or young person is affected by cancer, either through their own diagnosis or that of a parent or sibling, the impact goes far beyond medical treatment. Our vision is that no child faces that experience without the right emotional, social, and therapeutic support around them. Next slide, please. Every week, approximately 10 children and young people are diagnosed with cancer in Ireland. This highlights the scale of need. Behind every diagnosis is a child, a family, and often siblings who are trying to cope with fear, disruption, and uncertainty. Next slide, please. We are now currently supporting over 70 families in Derry, Londonderry, and over 100 families across the North West. These are families who are actively receiving support, and demand continues to grow. It demonstrates that this is not an abstract issue. It's affecting families across this council area right now. Next slide, please. At Cancer Fund for Children, we understand the devastating impact a cancer diagnosis can have on the whole family. While medical care focuses understandably on treatment, many families need additional social and emotional support in order to cope. Parents often tell us they feel overwhelmed, siblings can feel forgotten, and young people and children can struggle to process what's happening around them. Our work exists to fill that gap. Next slide, please. We provide comprehensive therapeutic support to children and young people impacted by cancer across the island of Ireland. Our support is tailored and trauma-informed. It focuses on helping children and young people understand their feelings, build coping skills, and regain a sense of normality during an extremely difficult time. Next slide, please. Our trained cancer support specialists work directly with families in their homes, in hospital settings, and during therapeutic short break centres at Daisy Lodge. This flexibility allows us to meet families where they are most comfortable and where support is most effective. Next slide, please. Daisy Lodge offers families short breaks at a time of extreme stress. These breaks provide space to reconnect, make memories, access therapy in a relaxed environment, and build resilience as a family unit. The expansion to Cong will allow us to meet growing demand across the island. And I would just like to share with you all a quote from a dad who is from Derry, Londonderry. His 4-year-old daughter, Aria, is going through cancer treatment, and Gavin's wife, and Aria's big sister, Isla, has been receiving support from Cancer Fund for Children throughout Aria's treatment. And this is what Gavin has to say about Daisy Lodge and the impact it has had on his family. Daisy Lodge has been our little escape. It's amazing. And to meet other families who are going through something similar or who are at different stages of their journey has been a huge support. In the early days, talking to families really helped us see what was ahead for us. And now we're able to do the same for other families who have just been diagnosed. It does get easier and the support is out there. Aria has been lucky to celebrate 2 birthdays in Daisy Lodge. The first time we went, she had no hair, she had a nose tube in and couldn't eat solid food. During our most recent visit, she was a normal 4-year-old. Newcastle, County Down will always have a special connection for our family. I think we'll go there every year now for the rest of our days. Next slide, please. We want every child to have access to the right support at the right time, regardless of where they live. This map shows our reach across all provinces. Our aim is equity of access, ensuring geography does not determine whether a child receives support during one of the most challenging periods of their life. Next slide, please. In Northern Ireland, we support children and young people impacted by cancer, and this includes children affected by their own diagnosis or the diagnosis of a parent or a sibling. Support is offered at different stages: diagnosis, treatment, remission, and bereavement, depending on the family's needs. Next slide, please. Our services include individual support, parental support, bereavement support, residential group work, and therapeutic short breaks. This range of services allow us to support the whole family, not just the child, recognising that recovery and well-being are shared experiences. At the heart of all of this is sustainability. To continue delivering these services, Cancer Fund for Children need to raise approximately 3.7 million each year in order for us to just keep our services running. Unlike many other organisations, we rely almost entirely on public donations to do this. That includes individuals, community groups, schools, local businesses, and fundraising initiatives driven by people who believe no child should face cancer alone. Support comes in many different forms. Some families and communities fundraise through sponsored walks, runs, or challenges. Others organise coffee mornings, school events, workplace fundraisers, or take part in organised campaigns throughout the year. What's important to us is that people can support us in ways that feel accessible to them, and that community involvement plays a huge role in sustaining these vital services. Next slide, please. With continued community support, partnership, and advocacy, we can ensure these services remain available for families in Derry, Londonderry, and across the region. Your support, whether through awareness, partnership, or signposting, helps us continue this work and ensures no child faces cancer alone. Next slide, please. Thank you all for your time and consideration, and I'd be more than happy to welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cora, and well done on all the work that you are doing. It's absolutely fantastic to see so much support wrapped around families at a very difficult and stressful time for them. And you mentioned the word trauma informed, and we look at how much adverse childhood experiences do affect people as they move on in the adult life. And the fact that that wraparound support is being provided by yourselves, scaffolding all of that around the family and not just the child or the young person, usually to be commended. And it's an excellent piece of work, and I will be supporting any charitable fundraising event that will be happening going forward for Cancer Fund for Children. So thank you so much. And I'm going to open it to the floor so that our members have a chance to have a wee chat with you. And the first indicated speaker is Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. And Cora, you're very welcome here. Today, I had the honour of going to one of your information events in October last year, and I was blown away by not only the support that you're giving to families, but you know, that sense of community that you had with all of the staff members and whatever. And I had the absolute pleasure to meet the family of Aria, who you just spoke about. And it was a blessing to me to see that wee child who had been through so much. And I mean, I have a link to the reading some of you've read out there, and it's just mind-blowing what that wee child has went through. She's been on 20 different types of medication. She was on steroids till she blew up that much that she wasn't recognisable. This is the kind of things that these wee children are facing. And as a mammy, I couldn't even imagine what that must feel like for this family. Do you know what I mean? So, do you know, in regards to the work that you're doing, do you know, it is essential. But I just wanted to make a comment on Isla as well, because sometimes when a family's going through them kind of difficult times, the focus, and rightly so, is on the child that's suffering from the cancer. But sometimes the focus is never on the other child, and that child is impacted and as much affected as through that cancer journey as what Aria was. So it was an absolute pleasure for me to meet them families. And, you know, we talk about charitable organisations on here all the time, and, you know, and we commend the work that we're doing. But that information thing that you had actually gave us an opportunity to see tangible differences when you're speaking to that family, and it's coming from their heart, the benefits that they have had through your organisation, should that be through support or just, you know, one-to-one working with Isla or whatever, and Daisyfield. I'm going to say Daisyfield, it's probably not Daisyfield, Daisy Lodge, jeez. But anyway, just the work that Daisy Lodge does and the thing we, and I was reading that part where you just mentioned there about, you know, Newcastle will have a place in their heart for, and they will visit that place. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it amazing that the traumatic experience that they had, they're able to take a place and make it something that's positive as opposed to featuring on the negative. And that's what things like Daisy Lodge do. They make a really, really bad, terrible situation and they make it into a positive for that family. And it's just amazing. I mentioned to you just before we started there, at that time, Aria was supposed to ring a bell in January, and I've been thinking about that wee child so much, and I was thinking, I wonder if she rung a bell yet? Is it, you know, coming up or whatever? And I'm kind of saddened to hear she hasn't rung a bell yet. Do you know what I mean? So if you are speaking to the family, can you pass on my regards? And, do you know, I do think about the child so often, and which is one of the reasons why I nominated yourself to come in here, because I think it's important that everybody that's going through this here has access to your services. And I was noting down because I put down notes before, and there was, at that stage you were helping 70 families, and now you're helping 100, and that's, you know, that shows you the impact and the need that's there. Do you know what I mean? When you're like, and that's startling. That's startling that, you know, 30 more families is going through the exact same journey as what the Stevenson family is going through. And then it was reported it was 3 children per week, and now I'm noting it's 10 children per week. Do you know what I mean? This is something that we need to be mindful of, and we need to be supporting the services that you are offering to the families within our city and district. So I just think that that is really important. And I'm going to finish off, and I know Karen will be, you know, so supportive of whatever, but, you know, I think that we need to be putting out the benefits of your organisation and their social media and getting that message out there, because as Aisling rightly said, you know, the trauma effect of this from early childhood is, you can't measure that. Do you know what I mean? So it is vitally important that every single person that has that diagnosis or that family, that they know automatically that there's people there to support them and take them through not just the diagnosis or whatever, but on that journey from them, from the diagnosis to they ring the bell, but even further than that. Do you know what I mean? And I just want to commend all of the staff. It was absolutely really, really good. And I had a good opportunity to speak to him about the different things. And it was just an absolute pleasure to be there. And any support that we can give in council, like I'm not just talking from myself, every single person in this room, do you know what I mean, will be supportive of anything that we can do as a council, not only promote your services, but to help in order to, as Aisling said, do you know, if there's any funding opportunities that we can help with or donate to, do you know what I mean, please let us know, and we're happy to do that. But thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. And the next indicated speaker is Councillor Duffy.
Margaret Ashling. Cora, I just want to echo much of what Alderman McMorris has said. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the event in Ebrington, but the Sinn Féin MLA Ciara Ferguson was there and has talked about the event since and the work of the organisation. I have to say it's probably every parent's nightmare scenario, and something that we fear the most for our children is a cancer diagnosis. And has been talked about here, the trauma that can the impact that trauma can have on the child, on the wider family. I think that the work that you have been doing, the organisation, has been absolutely tremendous. Sometimes families need that arm around them, sometimes it's for comfort, and sometimes it's to hold them together. And I think that work that you do is holding many families together and holding them up through probably the most difficult times that they will ever experience as a family. I think that the money that it takes to keep your organisation going isn't insurmountable. but it needs us all to be working together to make sure that we continue to support the fundraising efforts of Cancer Fund for Children, because it is so, so vitally important that we continue those services for those families, for those children, and to be able to give joy and space for families to have the good times as well within that cancer journey, because I know myself from my own family, when that news comes to your door, the trauma that can impact on the entire family, and you do need times when cancer isn't to the fore. It isn't the only thing that you're talking about. It isn't the only thing that you're thinking about. You have to be able to create memories as well that are happy memories, and certainly you have outlined that from the experiences of the family from Daisy Lodge. So I just want to commend you on the work that you do, and agree with Alderman McMorris around sharing that information on our social media. We should be sharing that information regularly around the services that you provide, but also the fundraising efforts that you are involved in, so that as a city and district, we can all certainly support them. But thank you for coming on today, and thank you to everybody who's involved in the service. And while it's not great to see it expanding, I'm glad that it is expanding, and it's a heartbreaking statistic that there's 10 children diagnosed a week. So just to commend you on the work that you are doing, and thank you for coming up.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. And the next indicated speaker is Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Cora, for coming in. There's probably not much more that can be said. I suppose I want to actually thank Nairi. What you were saying there, it was actually quite emotional listening to it, because whenever you think about the sister and you think about the mom and daddy, and actually whenever I was looking at it, you automatically think about the child who was diagnosed with cancer, but actually thinking that the kids whose mommy or daddy have been diagnosed as well, and that impact, it's really good that it's that whole wraparound, and it's not just around if they have a diagnosis, they can be a child of someone who has a diagnosis as well. I was going to mention about that kind of long-term impact and the adverse childhood effects that it can have and right into adulthood, and this is supporting, then hopefully then it wouldn't have that impact on the adulthood. And I thought the quote from Gavin was lovely to kind of highlight that sense of community that people obviously are taking from the charity, and that kind of sense of shared experience. And we know that shared experience, although it's a horrible experience, but sharing that pain and hope and maybe bits of laughter and everything really will help the families and the children, and I'm sure the parents as well, because they'll build up those connections with parents going through something similar. Normally I would be complaining that Daisy Lodge is in Newcastle and not in Derry, but actually it's lovely that it's somewhere away, because like you say, it turns into like a holiday nearly, that they get away from the hustle bustle of their normal, seeing the same nurses and the same doctors and going to the same appointments all the time, and getting that kind of respite from that somewhere away is actually lovely for them. And sure, Newcastle's a lovely part of the world as well. So, and it's nice to hear that they probably will holiday there every year now, and have that positive memory rather than the negative and the kind of sad memory that could well have been from the stage of their life. I also was going to just mention again, I started on it about the support for siblings as well, and I love that Nairi mentioned Isla. I think that, knowing a few families that have gone through childhood cancer as well, like the sister or the brothers end up being secondary, and not on purpose or anything else, but they nearly become like another wee carer towards their brother or sister. So I think that extra support, and I can kind of just imagine the sort of support they're getting, and it's lovely. And I think that it's really important to keep them in mind, because often if everything's wrapped around the sick child, then the other child may not get the support they need. So it's really, really good. I was going to ask, around that social media piece and actually promoting the specific fundraisers. So even if you could keep in touch with us, because I know sometimes people who've been involved with charities, they'll organise a coffee morning, but you might not know about it unless you're in that circle. So if we could be kind of kept in the loop around it, even if we could be popping in, and if we can promote it as well, that would be really good. Because until recently, probably like in recent months anyway, I didn't know about this charity because it hasn't come to my door. So I suppose I didn't know about it as well. But given that 10 children a week being supported is massive numbers, whenever you think about it. So I think getting it out there and promoting it is a really good idea. But I think coming in here is a good step in that direction as well. So thank you very much for everything you do and for coming in today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. And I don't see any further indicated speakers, Cora. So unless you have any other comments you want to make, sorry. Oh, Janice, sorry. I wrote that down. I know I didn't, I wrote it down and then it just went down in my head. Sorry, Cora. So we have Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you, Cora, for coming in. Just hearing Isla's story really does hit hard. And I know cancer hits hard most families, but when it's children involved, it really does hit home a lot more. It was just really to concur with everyone else and what they've all said, and just to ask, how does families access your services? Is it self-referral or do they be referred? And what was my other question here? Sorry. You talked about supporting bereaved families, and I was just interested to know, how long does that go on for?
Thank you so much for your question. So you can refer yourself, or you can be referred through a social worker, or of course a family friend, just anyone that knows about our charity and knows of a family that can access our services. And this can be done through our website. So as soon as you go on, there's a big button at the top that says make a referral, and it's just simple. You just type in a few things and that will come through to our services team, who will then contact the parent or contact whoever has made the referral, just to give us a bit more information. And then our services team will reach out to the parent and just ask what support they need, and at the moment what kind of stage they're going through. As well, in terms of the bereavement, we actually support families for up to 3 years after they have faced a bereavement. And of course, after those 3 years, it's not just your 3 years is up, goodbye sort of thing. Of course, we will keep that support going if we feel the child or the young person needs it.
Thank you, Cora, and apologies again. That's brain fog. Alderman Hussain.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. As you know, I'm not a member of committee. Can I sincerely thank you for the work that you do? And I think Councillor McDade hinted at it there. You know, it was work that was going on underneath a cloud, shall we say, and it's knowledge, getting that knowledge out of the work that you're doing. One of the issues that I see is that you work in a very crowded area of funding. And I mean, we can all name numerous cancer type charities. And indeed, I would include in that blood cancer charities, lymphoma and leukemia, which I know quite a bit about myself personally. Could you outline how you interact with all of those other charity bodies? And is it beneficial or detrimental to what you're trying to do to be in such a heavily populated area of charity work? Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, it can be detrimental, of course. As we know, there is a lot of cancer charities out there. I think mainly what I can say is unique about our charity is the fact we support the whole family. We see that cancer just doesn't affect the person that's diagnosed, but of course, mum, dad, siblings. So that's what we try and emphasize, and that's kind of how we try to stand out against other cancer charities. I think as well, the fact that we stay within Ireland and Northern Ireland, any funding that happens, any fundraising that happens is not going elsewhere. It's staying in our local community. It's impacting, people in our community, people throughout Northern Ireland. And I think that is the difference. Of course, there's other charities out there that are fantastic, but I think that is what makes Cancer Fund for Children stand out, is that we know that we are not just supporting the one person with the diagnosis, it's the rest of the family, and we carry that on, of course, then when the person sadly passes away. So I think that is the difference from us, to stand out against, of course, a lot of other amazing charities. But as you say, it's crowded. So it's how we can show people that we are in the community, and that the funding and their fundraising will stay within their local community.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, and thank you sincerely for your response.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. And Nairi, you looking to come back in?
Just a wee comment, when you were saying about the self-referral and stuff, I would have automatically assumed that when somebody was diagnosed, that the trust would automatically make a referral or certainly highlight the services, do you know, does that happen? Do you know, do they automatically signpost? Because if not, that's something that we would really need to look at to make sure that, you know, when people are faced with diagnosis, that they're getting that information and signposted to the charities. So that's why I didn't mention it, because I thought that that would be an automatic thing, do you know what I mean? But when you're saying that people self-refer, obviously, do you know, is that on the back of the fact that they have been informed from the trust, or is that something that we need to look into? Just, thank you.
So you can, they're not automatically referred by the trust, but we have cancer support specialists throughout the hospitals. So we are well known. Nurses and doctors can advise families of our charity, but it's completely up to that family if they see fit, if they want to access our services. We have young ambassadors as well, who are young people that have used our service. They go out into the hospital and they leave packs for other cancer patients similar ages to them, and it's just a pack that it's from their own words, kind of how they have went through the diagnosis, what helps them, what didn't help them, and it's just basically something that another young person can read from a young person that's went through something similar to them, and how what helped them. But no, they don't automatically be referred by the trust, but certainly doctors, nurses, hospital staff can recommend our charity.
Can I just make one comment? Sorry, you mentioned there about an ambassador for the thingy. It just triggered a memory for me. There was an ambassador there that night, a young gentleman who played music, and he was telling a story, and he was actually abandoned by his family, and he had to face a cancer journey alone, and only for the services that he got from your charity, he would have had absolutely nobody. And he's like, do you know, he was a musician, very young, very, very polite, well-mannered young boy. And just for him to come in and tell a story after it's bad enough being diagnosed with cancer, but being, do you know, like abandoned from your family because of your own life choices, was pretty shocking. So, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was something that really was powerful and impactful. So I'm good that the ambassadors is leaving the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. So Cora, apologies. We were finishing up and then we weren't finishing up, but just to say a massive thank you for coming in today. And some of us couldn't, I was chatting to you earlier, there was a lot of people on holidays when your event was in Edmonton, but that's given us a really good insight into the stuff that you do. And there's a lot of support from the floor. And as Catherine was saying, keep us informed of the fundraising events. We'll publicise as much as we can through our own council social media platforms, but continue doing the brilliant work that you do. Pass on our well wishes to Aria and her family and all those other children and young people that are navigating through this sort of really difficult time in their lives and their families. But just to wish you the very best of luck, and thank you so much for coming in, and safe journey home. Thank you, Cora. All right. Okay, members, we will move on now to our chairperson's business. And I have a couple of items here, and I'm going to start with my own, if you don't mind, to get it out of the way, and you can take the floor then. So as everybody is aware, this month is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And I just wanted to highlight that here among our members, and also to ask council to share some of the online awareness information that's out there at the minute, particularly the stuff by Hive Cancer Support, who are they run the campaign Team Sorsha. So there was a Love Better project that had taken part in the Moor Ward, and some of that evidence identified that cancer screening was one of the poorest attended within people that live within the Moor Ward. But across the board in the Western Trust, the target to cervically screen all women is 80%. In my opinion, it should be 100. We should be targeting everybody and ensuring that every single young girl and woman is receiving their cervical screening, because early detection does save lives. At the minute, they are only reaching 67.1 of the female population, which is really, really, really scary. There are a lot of barriers as to why women and young girls aren't attending their cervical screening, and that could be just embarrassment. It could be transport issues, accessibility to their GP surgeries, nurses, etc. So I just wanted to raise it here today because the figures are stark. They really, really alarm me. I'm a mother of 3 girls. I have 2 granddaughters. And I think that it begins at home as well, and encourage every single person to have the conversation. And a lot of young girls and women will actually squirm and say, Mommy, please don't talk about this. Keep talking about it. Let them tickle their redners, because early detection does save lives. And it's just something that I would like to put across here. We are the Health and Communities Committee, and in my opinion, we're responsible for getting that messaging out there in relation to all areas of health, but particularly women's health. So thank you very much for listening to that as well. And Councillor Duffy and then Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair, for raising it. It is such an important issue. It was just when you were speaking there that I had a thought. The local actress and comedian Dion Doherty has recently been out sharing her own experiences of putting off her smear test and the implications that then had for her health. Thankfully, everything is good with Dion now, but it is really good to see people in the public eye like that also sharing their stories through TikTok and other social media outlets where younger girls might be on and see that. So I think she needs to be commended as well for the work that she has done in raising awareness. But thank you, Chair, for bringing it on today. It is a really important issue, and some of the services that we have in the city are fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy, and I agree with Dion being open and honest, because that's what it takes. The social media world, the TikTok world, is where our young people are taking all their advice from, where it's scary in a way, but in Dion's case, it's actually really, really positive. So thank you, Sandra, for highlighting that. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for raising it. And funny, just as you finished chatting before Sandra came in, Brian turned around to me and said, did you see that about Diona Doherty? So it's having that impact, you know, that people are talking about it since she's done her video. 60, what do you say, 67% or 60, you know, that's really, really poor. And I understand it's an uncomfortable, it's the appointment that we all kind of dread going to and everything else, but it's so important. And I think it's right that you raised it here, and hopefully that'll get it kind of out there a wee bit and speaking about it more, because as you say, early screening does save lives. And we know that there's campaigns, Team Sorsha, for example, it's always out campaigning about lowering the age of when they become, you know, essential as well. So I think that having those conversations is really important. And I know that this month is cervical cancer awareness, but this week is also less survivable cancer awareness. And there's a list of cancers that are less survivable than others. Cervical, I think, actually is one of them. So I think that even highlighting that's really important, because what their kind of campaign would be is that speak about it, share the message, because the more people speak about it, the more money goes towards the research. And we know that research then saves lives. So I think just having these conversations and these kind of forums is really important. So thank you for raising it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDade and Alderman Cook.
Thanks, Chair, for bringing me in. Very worthy conversation to bring up, especially as it's the month for it. But I think you're right when you say about like stigma. I know of a woman in her 60s who said she has 2 adult children now, has never, ever had cervical screening, never had a smear test. And it's just no way I wouldn't do it, you know. And she's had she's had 2 children in her lifetime, like, so I do think it's just about normalizing that conversation, as you say, have people taking their redners or whatever. But no, I just wanted to highlight that there is a big stigma out there and people don't want to go near it for embarrassment reasons or other reasons. So I do think it's about normalizing that conversation and getting that information out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cook and Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and just want to thank you for bringing this forward. And you are right, it does start at home. And I think the younger you have the conversation with them, the easier it will get. I don't know whether it's an initiative, well, it's just my practice or what, but this week actually my nurse rang me and was all, "You're due, get in." So the appointment's booked and we're ready to go. But maybe it's something they could look at, if just even ringing that few people to get more and more in the door and just see, try and make it a bit easier for people. And thank you.
Thank you, and you're right, the services are amazing. The diary system is really, really good about bringing you back in your 3 years, but as Chelsea said, it's that stigma and embarrassment, people just getting up out of the house to go and get it. Sorry, Chelsea, you went back in?
And like you're saying, the services are great, and I know there was a stage in my life where I seen it coming in the door and I was like, God, I must mind and do that, and I never did it. And another lady came and another lady came until my mummy was like, right, you know. But the services are great, and I just wanted to highlight that as well.
Thank you. So that's everybody. We will move on to the next item, which is Councillor Paul Boggs.
Mugga Chair, and thanks for bringing me in. I want to raise the issue, which I'm sure some members will have seen over the weekend in Strabane, particularly relating to Strabane Athletic Football Club, who were set to host Glentoran Football Club for probably one of the biggest football games that Strabane would have ever seen in the history of football. It brought a lot of preparation for the club, for the whole of Strabane. People were really excited to see it. People who would never don Melvin Arena were racing to get tickets to get there, to be part of a really historic day. And I know the work that went in to the preparation for that match. And I want to, first of all, commend the team and the volunteers and the management and everybody associated with the club for all the hard work that did go in. But unfortunately, because of weather conditions, you can control a lot of things, but you can't control what the weather's going to do. Unfortunately, the pitch froze because of inclement weather. But I do also want to put on record thanks to council officers, because in engagement with the club, it was very clear that officers for the whole week leading up to Saturday had done everything they could to make sure that the pitch was in good condition, and where possible that it would be playable on Saturday morning. But unfortunately that wasn't the case, and it is hugely disappointing. Now, subsequent to that, and people and here will know a lot more about fixtures in football than I do, but a fixture now has to be placed on a weeknight rather than on a weekend. And as members will know, we do not have floodlights on the Melvin Arena pitch, which therefore prohibits the game being played there. So the game is going to the Oval, to Glentoran's ground, which is disappointing. And while it's disappointing, I want to put a plea out to anybody who was originally attending Melvin Arena, makes every best effort to go up and support the lads and the management in the Oval as well, because it is hugely important that we show them our support as they travel. And in that regard, I wish them all the very best of luck, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being there myself. But people are asking questions, rightly asking questions, about where we are at with the further development of Melvin Arena in terms of the floodlights. We were very confident, having secured monies last year during the capital rounds for the floodlights, and it gave people a boost of excitement in relation to it. And the development. It's not just for Strabane Athletic. I mean, there's a running club that has recently formed again on the track who can't use it. They're running around Dock Street car park in Strabane because it is the only kind of, it's the most similar thing to a running track that you're going to get that has lights around it. And no joking aside, that's where the running club are running, around a car park in Dock Street. So they are keen to see it. Science Swift ladies presented to this committee in 2025, who are very keen to get playing. They foresee issues with the Brandywell, and we can discuss that with officers offline in the next season, and the next half of the season that they're in. So they too have been in contact. So it's not just a Strabane athletic issue, it is a wider Strabane sporting issue, and we need to see it progress. So I have listened very attentively to some of the commentary over the last couple of days, particularly from some members of this committee and this council, and it is disappointing to see some people choosing to turn it into a real negative story. And it's disappointing, but we need to work together to get to the stage where the floodlights are delivered. Most councillors in Strabane Town supported the funding process for getting the floodlights to the stage that they're at now and further installing them. Not all supported the funding. But those of us who did are keen to work together to make sure it is delivered. And it's, in my opinion, not too late for those who didn't support the funding at that time to get on board as well. So I do have a proposal. I did give Barry prior notice that I would be making a proposal in relation to this. And I want to thank Barry for the engagement that I had with him before Christmas, really detailed engagement, but I can't answer all the questions that are coming on at the minute. And I think it is time that we get a proper update through a paper. Hopefully that can be done in time for next month's committee so that it is there for all to see what work has been undertaken so far, what work needs to be undertaken, and when we can hopefully see the application for planning going through the planning system to eventually see installation. So I don't know if officers have any kind of update for us today, but if not, I want to make that a formal proposal that we do see a paper coming forward as soon as possible, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, just to confirm, the Chief Executive has asked that there is a paper and it comes to the special capital meeting, which is scheduled for the end of this month. So the Head of Capital Development has been asked to prepare that paper. And in addition to addressing the floodlights, it is also hoping to, if we can get the clarification from the from IFA, the Irish Football Association, around other pitch requirements at a championship or conference level. I think that has maybe delayed the process of moving the floodlights on as a separate project. And there'll be obviously an opportunity for members to consider then whether it goes forward as an entirety or whether it goes forward as a floodlighting only project.
If you're a seconder for that proposal, Councillor Devine.
Chair, can I ask it just make it one brief point, and I should have on my original speaking notes. I do appreciate the process that has gone on to date, because there's no point in installing floodlights and then getting 18 months down the line and realising for that same growing criteria we need X, Y, and Z, and we only put an A. What the point that I have made to Barry, and I hope that it can be taken on in the paper, is we know the issues that we have with Mitchell Park in relation to a similar scheme of floodlights in close proximity to a river. So it is about, in my view anyway, and I look forward to the paper coming to the Capital Working Group, it is in my view about getting that planning underway as soon as possible and then working on the other elements in parallel rather than holding everything up to go into plan at the one time, because it is going to be tricky. And I think that's part of the reason why we need to see the paper in relation to timelines so that we are more transparent with people about how long it's going to take. But in my view, the planning and the other elements would run in parallel rather than waiting to hold them up as one. So I just want to make that point as well, but thank you very much, Karen.
Yeah, duly noted, Councillor Boggs. And Alderman Hussey, you were looking to come on this item?
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair, and thanks to Councillor Boggs for bringing the issue forward. He will realise I have complete empathy with what is being talked about here. But at the same time, I want to remind members, I think it may be coming forward the suggestion of a capital funding programme for sports clubs along with this, because what we're talking about here is provision for a club, whilst there are other clubs in the same position who have gone ahead and done their own funding. So whilst I support the idea of, yes, council on this facility, because it's a multi-use facility, we have to be mindful that support is also needed out there by clubs who have their own facilities. And I'm not just talking about football. There are many clubs who have their own facilities, have developed those facilities, and also deserve support. So keeping that in mind, I hope committee members will keep it in mind. I know Councillor Devine has brought this forward before with regard to support for clubs. So to me, it all fits into the same sort of package going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. No further speakers on that one. Okay, so the third and final item on chairperson's business is Councillor Duffy.
Cormaga, Chair, and thank you for allowing me in. I'm just coming in to congratulate Grúpa Ceol Beag. They're a 14-member traditional Irish band. They're comprised of students from right across this county, with the youngest member being just 10 years old. Many of them are gold medalists from the County Fla. They play instruments such as the harp, the concertina, fiddle, banjo, guitar, whistle, flute, bodhrán, and Irish pipes, as well as singing absolutely beautifully. They proudly represent Derry absolutely everywhere that they go, and they have now been selected to compete in the prestigious Celtic Connections Festival, which is held in Glasgow. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate them and wish them all the very best, and hope that the people of Derry and our council area can really get behind them, but to request as well that the mayor would meet them prior to them going to the festival, just to wish them well and give them a mighty send-off before they go. I have spoken to the mayor's office in relation to it, so I think that they're happy enough with that. But I just wanted to put on record our congratulations to them. It's a fantastic achievement to such a talented group of young people from this council area. So thank you for that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy, and Councillor Logue will be very happy with that recommendation. Her two grandsons form part of the group, and they're all amazing musicians. So no, definitely that's a good proposal. Did I forget anybody in chairperson's business before I? No? Got it right today. Thank you very much. So we will move on to matters arising from the open minutes of the Health and Communities Committee held on Thursday, the 11th of December. Any matters arising? Councillor Boggs?
Yeah, HC 316/25. I just wanted to ask officers, I suppose, for an assessment on where we are at the minute in relation to the volume of complaints or issues that we are receiving from Artie Garvin. Do we sense that there's an improvement or not? And it's just to see if we can get some kind of update in relation to it, and also just to keep it on the agenda. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Boggs, and Alan's going to take that question.
Thank you, Chair. I think there has been a demonstrable reduction in number of complaints. There has been 2 complaints in relation to noise within the last week or so, and those will be under investigation and referred to the Industrial Pollution Inspectorate as well for investigation.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Councillor Boggs. And the next indicated speaker on matters arising is Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I've actually 3 items. The first one relates to the one that Councillor Boggs has already brought up. And I was just wondering, there is a meeting proposed and seconded and endorsed at council. I just wonder when that will happen. And if we're looking at 316 on page 22, the last sentence referred to wider environmental impact, and that impact was suggested by the group was specific to the Derg area. And I had, if members will remember or recall, I had suggested that Derg councillors should be made aware of any meeting going forward as well, given the implications of the disposal of materials from the plant at Artie Garvin, which is suggested. I don't know if it happens or not, but has been suggested there is disposal of that within the Derg area. That's the first point. But I think the officers already covered that particular issue. So it's the meeting going forward. My second one is 322 on page 25. If I can find it now. Sorry, page 26. Yeah. We were advised that a report would be brought in January 26 with regard to street trading, brought to the Health and Community Committee. I don't see it on the agenda. When will that report be brought? And my third point is on HC 330. And it is on page 30. And it's with regard to road closures. If I can find that again too, maybe I've got the wrong pages here. Yeah, there's page 30, yeah, 330. License and orders issued under delegated authority. I had questioned the issue of road closures and the need for engaging traffic management companies who charge exorbitant fees and have almost a monopolistic situation with regard to their services. There are very few of them in Northern Ireland. I did receive information back from the officer with regard to the requirements for traffic management and the particular certification that would enable a community group or any other group, including council, to engage and operate their own traffic management plan for events. I discovered that that particular certification course is basically a half-a-day course costing 250 quid. The problem is that I haven't found a company that can deliver that in Northern Ireland. There are several in England who can deliver that particular certification. But given the cost that traffic management companies bring to events, it might be something worth further investigating as to whether this council could arrange for that type of certification course to be held within Northern Ireland. I'm sure there would be wider interest across the entire 6 counties of Northern Ireland with regard to that. As I say, you know, for 250 quid, a lot of community groups, a lot of organisations could avoid the costs that traffic management companies can place on them. And as I say, it's, from what I've gathered, it's a very, very simple course. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. And Alan can deal with the first element about the meeting, and then Karen can speak on the street trading and the road closure idea that you've just come up with. Is that okay, Alan?
Thanks, Chair. Unfortunately, it hasn't been possible to agree a meeting date for the interagency, but that'll be forwarded to members in the near future.
In terms of the street trading report, you are correct. We were due to schedule that for January. The report is written. We are a quality screening, and that report is scheduled now for the February meeting. With regard to traffic management and companies equipped to deliver the certification, we'll have a look into that and we'll cost it. Do a little bit of a market test maybe with those people who are required to submit it as part of their events planning processes. If we felt there was a demand, certainly that is something that we could look at and bring back the information to you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Karen. Any other matters arising? No, we'll move on. So agenda item 8, Strategic Sport Partnership Investment Programme, and that will be Teresa. Oh, Ryan, is Ryan here? Oh, he's online. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you. The purpose of the report is to update members and seek approval for the Strategic Sports Partnership Assessment Panel recommendations to carry forward the remaining 25-26 budget through 26-27 and the reallocation of budget from the Sports Development Miscellaneous Programme to the project. Members previously approved the delivery of a 2-year pilot of the Strategic Sports Investment Programme, and from 25-26 a recurrent budget of £25,000 has been established. An application process was opened on the 5th of November. 5 applications were received and have been summarised in table 3.2 within the report. 4 applications scored over 60%, with Rowan Ireland scoring just under the threshold of 60% at 57.5%. The assessment panel recommendations were approved by Sports Committee on the 12th of December. The panel and Sports Committee felt with additional support it would be worthwhile to include Rowan Ireland's proposal, considering the recent developments of Prehen Pontoon and the strategic importance of delivering or developing our rivers and blueways. An integrated impact assessment for the sports development delivery plan for 25-26, which includes the strategic sports partnership, has been included in Appendix 1. The findings listed at 4.1 to 4.4 within the report for members' information. A summary of the proposed financial breakdown of the programme has been set out in the report at 4.5 to 4.9, also for members' considerations. The recommendation of the report is that members approve to carry forward the 25-26 budget remaining amount of 18,750 to 26-27. To approve the reallocation of budget of 18,835 from the Sports Development Miscellaneous Programme, and to approve the recommendations of the Assessment Team and Sports Committee to award Strategic Sports Partnership Investment Funding to all applicants outlined within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. And first indicated speaker is Councillor Devine.
Good Chair. Thanks very much, Ryan, for the report. I just have a question in relation to this. I suppose we've been through an application process for a set amount of money, and we're in a position where we have an organisation who hasn't met the threshold, and we're still recommending that they receive funding. And also, I suppose, the fact that there is a shortfall in the funding that's available, and we are sort of propping that up with additional monies. So I suppose I would just like maybe some comment or feedback on that. I think any other application process or grant process that we run is generally, you know, if you don't meet the threshold, you're not going to get the funding. So I suppose just some comments around that.
Yeah, as set out as part of the terms and conditions, we did say that a threshold of 60% would be required scoring. When the panel carried out the assessment of the Rowan Ireland proposal, which scored just below that, their financial breakdown was poorly laid out, and that's where they lost out marks. The actual, what they planned to deliver within their action plan was very good. It was more the breakdown of the financial. So that's why we basically have proposed that with support from officers, and all successful organisations will have to sit down with officers to look at an actual delivery action plan that will be designed in partnership. So what we feel with the importance of developing, especially what we're doing at Prehen, that we could help assist Rowan Ireland and deliver those action plan and outputs from that. So that's why we proposed including them within the overall proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Is that okay, Councillor Devine? All right. The next indicated speaker on this item is Chelsea.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. And on behalf of the DUP, we also discussed the situation and had a similar question to what Councillor Devine has just asked. We think it's a great initiative. And in a way, I'm glad to hear that if they had just missed out and there is something that we could do to help them along, then I'm glad to see that they could you know, receive the funding as well. So I just wanted to wish the 5 selected clubs all the best in their endeavours, and I look forward to see what they achieve in the next 2 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cook. And the next indicated speaker is Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to declare an interest links to Ulster boxing. So I'll sign the form, Paula.
Thanks, Sandra. So any more speakers on that item? No? Sorry, Brian. Did you want them? Brian, so go ahead, Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair, and I suppose it's to welcome the report. Like others, there was some concerns around the percentage below the threshold, but given the officer's explanation, I think it's a good idea to try and make sure that we're supporting organisations where they're, for want of a better word, falling down in terms of the layout and the presentation of their application. And it's not about the layout or the presentation of the activities that they're going to be carrying out. And I think it's something that we should be welcoming. And hopefully, in this fund and all the work that we do with clubs, and particularly junior clubs, is about development. And that's what we have to be doing. And this may cause that problem not to be a problem next year when officers sit down with the organisations and point out how and why this happened. But all in all, we're happy to support the recommendation that we get this out. And like others, I'll be keenly watching over the next 2 years to see the rollout of this money and how it supports the organisations and the achievements that they make along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney, and I need a proposer and a seconder for the report. Proposed by Alderman Cook, seconded by Councillor Clark. Councillor Boggs.
I don't know if I need to, but do we need to declare an interest as a member of that sports committee?
So, members, agenda item 9, which is the Home Safety Service update, and Alan will give us that report.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to update members on the Home Safety Service and the funding streams available to support the delivery of the service. In the current financial year, the Public Health Agency has provided Council with £49,718 of funding. So as a result of service pressures during 25-26, the PHA has now made a letter of offer for an additional £1,994 in funding in 25-26, and has also provided a roll forward letter indicating that the PHA will commit to providing funding into 26-27 financial year, subject to satisfactory performance with their contract. So it is recommended that Council accept the letter of offer for the 1994 pounds and the roll forward letter for 26-27 funding.
Thank you, Alan. And first indicated speakers, Councillor Clark.
Yep, no, it's great to hear that the PHA is to continue the funding. The Home Safety Service is a great asset and providing support to high-risk groups. As we all know, we have an ageing population, so it's very welcome that there will be ongoing support and excellent prevention guidance for our older people, but also others who need it as well, or all our vulnerable groups who need it. And it's great to know that it's going to follow through for the next few years. So thank you. I welcome it.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor McDade.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks, Alan, for the report. And I'm happy to second it if it's needed there. I think just to agree with what Amanda said, we know that it's an important service being provided to a lot of vulnerable people in our society. So everything we can do to keep it going is really important. But thank you very much. Happy to support it. Ms. LP.
Thank you. We don't need it proposed or seconded at this stage because it's just noted. So just in case is that all right, Paula? Thank you. So agenda item 10, which is the 6 monthly progress report by the Health and Community Directorate delivery plan and the delivery plan for 25 and 26, and that is Karen.
Members, the report, I suppose, follows the established format in relation to its tie-in to the strategic growth plan, the corporate plan, and the directorate plan that you've reviewed at the start of the financial year. So I don't want to go through it in detail because obviously it's been a long afternoon at this particular point in time, but pages 89 to 103 in the report give a little more narrative reflection of the work and the achievements of the directorate, and to point out that we are probably just around 54% in terms of directorate, which is in keeping with the 6-month timeline. So members, just asking if there are any comments or observations that you want to make in terms of the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Karen, for the report. On behalf of Sinn Féin, I'm happy to propose the report and endorse it. I think whenever these reports come before us at the end of the year and then the 6-monthly report, it shows us just how much the Directorate does from community development to sports development and environmental health and a whole raft of other issues. I just want to give particular mention on page 97, there's some of the stuff with the sports development achievements, and I think that needs to be commended because they do brilliant work across all our leisure facilities in terms of GP referrals and working with young people and everybody in between. So I want to give a special mention to that. on page 99, there's stuff around the community toilet scheme. Obviously, different director, but the Alley Theatre remains closed still while the remedial works are ongoing. So I just would like, not any information, but can we put another push just in relation to Strabane businesses signing on to the scheme to ensure that there is adequate toilet facilities right across Strabane town, because the Alley Theatre as the main kind of information centre and their toilets would have been used a lot, but obviously still closed. And as Karen says, we're over the 50% mark at the 6 months. And anything that kind of isn't halfway across on the bar on the different areas of work has a rationale and a reason beside it. But just if there is anything that officers are concerned about that we wouldn't achieve in quarters 3 and 4, to highlight them now. But I don't think that is the case. Everything seems to have a rational reason. So thank you very much.
Councillor McDade.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Karen. I don't know whether this paper needs proposed and seconded like the second one or not, but if it, like the previous one, but if it does, I'm happy to second this one as well. I just wanted to comment on, I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that's been done, and even just putting the paper together is brilliant. So thanks to the officers for doing that. Never mind all the work goes on behind it. And I suppose to encourage people, I know that the community engagement's going on, good relations kind of process at the minute too for the next financial year. So just to encourage people to engage in that process as well from all across the community. But no, thank you very much. We're happy from the SDLP perspective to endorse the paper. Thank you.
So that's proposed and seconded by Councillor Boggs and Councillor McDade. And I suppose just from my perspective, it's to touch on the Child Friendly City accolade that we achieved this year from UNICEF. I think that was a huge piece of work by the Directorate, by the Children and Young People's Coordinator in particular. And it's just to reiterate how proud we are and how hard everybody worked in order for us to get the badge. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you. So is that everybody? Yep. We're at open for information now, so we'll just go through them one by one. And if you can put your hand up, and hopefully I see, because I can see up close with these glasses, but I can't really see far away. So the first item in open for information is the continuation of End Violence Against Women and Girls, the local change fund up until March 2028. I have two indicated speakers, but I just wanted to comment on this one myself before we go to the floor. There was some really interesting information on the news last week in relation to the number of reports over the Christmas period by individuals who were experiencing domestic abuse. The figure was 1,407 calls to the PSNI, and 115 of those calls was on Christmas Day. And my heart actually sunk into my stomach when I heard those stark figures, because I just thought about Christmas, what Christmas means, what families should be doing, and how individuals should be enjoying each other's company and celebrating together. Now, although that is really, really sad, and there was a lot of people in a lot of distress at that time, it also brought me great comfort in relation to the work that we're doing as a council team and as an executive as well. There's a lot of work going on in the executive office, and that is trickling down on the local authorities like ourselves. When I say a comfort, what I mean is that 1,407 people lifted the phone, which is, I'm not going to say it's an excellent number, but it's a rise in what it would have been in the past. So although I felt very sad about those reports, I also felt really proud about the work that we're doing with our partner organisations as a council and as an executive team as well. So I just wanted to raise that today and share that information with everybody, because we are, obviously something's working, people are lifting the phone, and I just hope that all of those individuals have received the care and the services that they need from the services that are out there. So Chelsea, and then Catherine.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. And it's just an issue that we were talking, our group was talking around today. Just wanted to highlight it. So I know that lighting obviously is one of, the recommendations on improving lighting, and I'm glad to see that like Bay Road and Drumahoe and all are getting the lights installed. But it's about maybe other hotspots that wouldn't involve your walking parks. Like, for example, what's been brought to us quite a few times is obviously a lot of staff work in Altnagalvin Hospital, and a lot of people walk to their work, but it's about, those subways are so dimly lit. And a lot of women have contacted us. They say that they do feel vulnerable, and that's only one hotspot. I'm sure there's, you know, and I know that people are like were found sleeping in there, and you know what, which can increase that anxiety. So we just wanted to highlight that situation, and maybe something us as councillors or as a council, you know, can address. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chelsea. Catherine? Thank you very much. Chair, do you know what? See those tunnels over in the water? I wouldn't go near them day or night, to be honest with you. And that's just the truth. They're too scary. You don't know who's going to be on them. I was actually hoping I was going to raise about the calls to PSNI as well, because obviously it has been all over the news the past few days, and about how Christmas Day and New Year's Day were the two big days. And I had exactly the same thoughts as you, Aisling, around the, you know, I was sitting with my family, enjoying my dinner and enjoying that family time that most of us think about at Christmas. And yet there's people at home, and it's, I suppose the story, the narrative that I had heard around it was that people try and stay together and create that, and then things escalate, and then there's more alcohol and everything else, and it becomes a really dangerous time. So I would agree that it's good that people are making the phone calls and reaching out for help, but I think that again, it's just so sad that it's we're still in this space. And I think it's worth mentioning too, when it comes to those domestic violence calls, that they weren't all women. There will be men who have made those calls as well, because it's not just women that are victims and survivors of domestic violence. Just unfortunately, the majority are women. I also just wanted to take this chance to ask about, I think it was last month or possibly the previous month, that I had mentioned about the lighting again down the floodlights at the Templemore Sports Complex. And I know that Barry had answered me that month and around the Couch to 5K would be starting soon, and this would be an opportunity to pilots keeping the lights on longer. I seen on Facebook either last night or the night before that the Couch to 5K is starting soon. I'm just wondering, has there been consideration around that kind of pilot and having the lights on for an hour before and an hour after the Couch to 5K for people to use the?
Yeah, I think it has been considered, and I think it's once the Couch to 5K is on, that we keep the lights on for an extended period of time, perhaps earlier and later, for people who informally want to exercise, just as a pilot to see how that goes. So you will feed back to the centre just to make sure that is publicised alongside the 5K.
There we go, thank you. We'll move on and open for information on item 12, District Council Good Relations Programme, update from the Executive Office. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And I note in the communications, etc., that the Executive Office asked that basically the application would be flexible because the funding is not yet known. Now that suggests to me that, you know, if we put in what we had this year, they're suggesting, I think, that there could be a cut. I don't know. But given the vibes coming out from the Hill, one would expect that that might be the case. Is there any indication yet of what the 75% from the Executive Office will be on this? I mean, groups need to know that they plan things in advance. We expect them to plan things in advance. So is there any indication when we will hear from the Executive Office what their 75% will be, and therefore that dictates our own 25% contribution? Thank you.
Yeah, Alderman Hussey, the Executive Office have asked for a copy of the action plan. And as you'll be aware that Council is currently developing the Good Relations Strategy and Action Plan for the new financial year. We're hoping to have a draft for the 6th of February. That'll be submitted to the Executive Office, and hopefully they'll give us an indication of the budget going forward. The baseline will probably be based on last year's budget, but we are hoping that they would reinstate it to the original allocation as was in place for 23-24. But as soon as we get further confirmation, we'll keep members updated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that clarification, and let's hope that we can hold our own this year.
Thank you, Teresa. Agenda item 13, test purchasing exercises update in relation to tobacco and nicotine inhaling products for 25-26. And Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me in, and thank you to the officers for this very detailed report. Now, one of my questions may seem a wee bit obvious, but I want to just make sure that I've got this right. So in 3.1 of the report, it states that Council have visited 40 premises, 19 on the 30th of June, and 1 sale of an e-cigarette occurred. 21 visits took place on the 27th of October, and 9 sales, 1 packet of cigarettes, and 8 e-cigarettes took place. So that's obviously 10 sales over those 2 dates, over those 40 premises that were visited. Does that mean that the other 30 either refused the person or asked for identification? And the other point that I would like to make is, do we have a time of when these visits were carried out in terms of a time in the day? Because I've raised it at this committee before, and I genuinely do believe that there are some stores which stay open after council closes, after 5, which is very attractive looking to young people. And I believe that young people could be buying and purchasing e-cigarettes in that shop. And if the owners know that these test purchases are only going to happen between the hours of 9 and 5, for example, then after 5, when they're open later, particularly in the city centre and some of the town centres across the district, then that's kind of open season for them. And we're not doing all we can to protect young people. So has any of those 40 visits happened after hours in terms of office hours? And if that is correct, that 30 of those visits actually turned a person away or asked for identification, I think that's quite good. It could be better, obviously, but I think it's quite good. And I would like to thank the officers and those involved for the work that they've been doing on this, because I think out of 40 visits, I think that's quite good. I would agree, and we would support the 30/70 recommendation from the PHA, because I think in terms of today's world, we are seeing more young people smoking e-cigarettes than we are seeing them smoking cigarettes. So that shift from 50/50 to 30/70, I think will be quite useful as well. But just those couple of questions, Chair, for the front table. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you're correct, member. So it was 10 out of the 40 premises is actually sold to the child. The child was 15 years old. The Northern Ireland recommendations in terms of hours is between 9 and 3:30 in the afternoon. Obviously, it's normal school routine, and to get the child home on one thing and another, that's just what's been recently agreed. I take your point that there may well be people that are on point to sell after those hours or after school or whatever it is. But I think it's fair to say that we are still finding the premises during those hours that the test purchasing is taking place. And the positive out of that, we can issue them a financial sanction as a result of the fixed penalties. Now you'll see in 3.2 that we have one premises that is sold on a number of occasions over the years. So that will be going forward with the recommendation for further legal proceedings. Now, the courts have power to either restrict the premises in terms of selling those products or restrict a person. And that'll be something that will be considered by Seamus and the legal team going forward. And if it goes forward, we'll bring a further update in relation to that. So that's where we're at the moment. We have 40 out of the 70 test purchases require a PHA done, so we'll do the rest now before the end of March, and we'll report back then after that period of time.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that answer. Now, have I heard you correctly? What you're saying is, pardon me, the recommended time is between 9 and 3, or the agreed time is between 9 and 3:30. Do we have it within our gift to step outside that time frame? And if we don't, what do we do, or what do we need to do to get that extended? Because I genuinely believe that there will be premises that will be selling e-cigarettes to children after those hours, particularly now after hearing this.
Thank you, Chair and Member. There isn't anything in law prohibiting us from doing test purchasing after those times. It would obviously need the consent of the child and their parents to do so. And the cooperation, it can be difficult to get children in the first instance to agree to take part in this process. It's not everyone that wishes to do it for various reasons, and especially not in their own geographical area. So, but it is something that we'll consider, and if we can get consent going forward with the family and the children involved, that's something that we certainly, from an officer point of view, can facilitate, just to see how it would work out. But I suppose the other thing to note is the Northern Ireland Audit Office did commend this council for the work that we were doing in relation to test purchasing and the results that we were having. And I think the number of fixed penalties issued so far this year is actually going to reflect well in terms of what we're doing, and hopefully with some PR, it will maybe act as a deterrent towards other premises as well that may be tempted to sell the prohibited products to children.
Thank you, Alan. And just a wee bit of information just for the committee. I am on the Tobacco and Vaping Task and Finish Group with the PHA and other statutory and community and voluntary organisations, and we will be receiving a briefing on the 3rd of February, and it'll be an update in relation to the vaping research that's been done across the region, and it's been carried out by Health Intelligence. So the information within that will form responses from our region that will it'll be responses to the tobacco and vapes bill consultations that are ongoing at the minute. So hopefully that'll be done this year, and I'll keep you all up to date. All right. Sandra, you want it on there? Okay, we'll move on. So is everybody okay with item 13? We'll move to 14, and that's licenses and permits issued under delegated authority. Item 15, correspondence. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to the correspondence from the Health Minister, or the Minister for Health, on page 151. We had requested that the Minister would meet with us. He's offering, if we want to look through the statistics, a meeting with some officials, expertise in the area of funding. But within that, on page 154, there's a pie chart. And I don't know if anybody's looked at that. And one of the major concerns that crops up time and time again in this chamber is primary care. And I'm looking at that, and it's telling me that the funding for primary care is 3% of the health budget. Now, it seems to me that there's something out of kilter here, because we're told that because of accessibility issues, etc., the primary care impacts then on acute care and our hospital system. So I would suggest to the committee that we should be asking those statisticians to come and address council, because the whole thing is interrelated. And as I say, I'm just concentrating on one element there, namely the primary health and adult community care at 3% of the entire budget, 44% on acute. And we know how much of that acute budget then is because people are held up within hospitals, etc., etc., etc. And I think it would be good for council to interact at least with those statisticians, if the minister isn't prepared to come, to learn more about how that particular percentage in that pie chart has been arrived at. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey, and Karen will be happy to do that, invite them along for a deputation. Thank you.
16.
Item 16, consultations. Oh, sorry, Catherine, is that on item 15? Yeah, go ahead.
It's actually on the same letter I was trying to come in on, because I had requested that meeting off the back of the deputation that Neil Guckin and the senior leadership team had come in. Do you remember they were talking about Save Our Kids Services, and then we ended up talking about formulation of funding. So I think that I think it's really important that they come in. I think that's a wee bit of fobbing us off there, sending us a pile of statistics and saying, look at them, and then you can see if you want to come. The purpose of asking them to come in was actually to talk about specifically around the Western Trust and the unfair, how unfair the procedures are, because we do have the highest level of poverty. So I really think that we need to push to get that meeting rather than a document full of numbers. Thank you.
That's grand. That'll be added in as a request for the deputation. Councillor Boggs.
Thank you, Chair. And just very briefly, in relation to the response from the Department for Education in relation to RAISE, they very proudly say that the court found that the department acted lawfully and rationally in developing the Northwide place-based approach to funding. I don't think, well, there was an issue with taking it through the courts to find out whether it was legal or not, but just because something is legal doesn't mean that it's right. And we still have communities and young people right across our city and district and right across the north who are being left out of the vital supports that RAISE will provide to some children and not all. And it is still a postcode lottery. So just because it passed through the courts doesn't make it right. And I think we need to keep that in mind whenever we're looking at that piece of correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Agenda item 17, child's rights. And can I have
The consultations?
go ahead?
Yeah. So just under the consultations, there is a consultation there in terms of expanding the access to naloxone. Anyone that has been on the PCSP with me will know that I have been talking about that for quite some time and trying to push for the PSNI, particularly to have access and training around the use of naloxone. We know that it saves lives in terms of opiate overdoses. We have seen it save lives here within the city. So I think that we need to be responding to that consultation and highlighting that and expanding the access to a really life-saving intervention if possible. So I'm hoping that we will be responding through the PCSP as well. But as a council, I think that if we could respond to that, I know of many people who are here because of that intervention. So if we could, as a council, respond, I would be very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be arranged. Councillor Duffy. Agenda item 17, child's rights. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for confidential? Proposed by Alderman Montgomery, seconded by Councillor Clark.